Greetings, one and all, the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Stop there. Are we sure that this is the same Beatrice that Rose's son met? Immediately Kyrie spoke the question that Will had been thinking of. It would be too rash to assume that the Beatrice Kinzo met and the one Rosa met were the same person. The time and generation didn't match up. Beatrice is supposed to be the lady of leisure who lent Dad all the gold shortly after the war, right? By using Beatrice's gold as a foundation, Father revived the Ushiromiya family and got super rich. Then he bought Rakanjima and moved over. Rosa-san meeting her must have been at least 10 years after that. A woman who could do as she pleased with 10 tons of gold could hardly be some little girl, and 10 more years passed before she met Rosa. Rosa? About how old did the Beatrice you met look? She looked older than I was at the time, but even so it looked as though she might just be reaching adulthood. Yes, just the sort of age of the Beatrice in the portrait. Did she look middle-aged or past her prime? If I had to call her an adult or a child, she was clearly closer to being a child. There's no way she was middle-aged. And isn't that strange? We have the Beatrice you met and the Beatrice who gave Father the gold, but their ages don't match. In other words, they're different people. Different people who look very similar and have the same name? It might have been her daughter. A kid would obviously end up looking like her mother. His mistress's daughter. It is possible perhaps Father had an illegitimate child with the Beatrice who gave him the gold, and then Rosa bumped into Beatrice II. That way, the ages fit just fine. I see. In other words, there are two people who could be called Beatrice. Kenzo secretly raised his mistress's child in a hidden mansion. It made sense. Everyone nodded, agreeing. However, Will's expression was slightly unsatisfied, and he scratched at his head. So it would seem that this funeral exists for the two Beatrice he couldn't mourn because they were kept secret. Rosa? I know you probably don't want to remember, but tell me about the accident after Beatrice fell. Was she still breathing? No. Her eyes were wide open. She fell upside down head first and knocked her head against a sharp crag on the rocky beach. And she fell from such a height, her skull had split and caved inwards. That beautiful golden hair was stained red with blood almost instantly. Was it the sort of wound that clearly showed that she was dead? Yes, I saw the insides of her cracked head, and it caved in deep enough to fit your fist inside. No one could be naive enough to see that and still hope that she was alive. Will? Do you really need to ask anything more? That's enough for the time of the accident. What did you do afterwards? I dashed away at full speed. I can't say I was thinking about calling for help. I wanted to escape from that place as fast as I could, half crazed, sobbing, and out of breath. I kept on running about at random. Eventually I came across a familiar lion statue. Oh, the one in front of the chapel. No, the one behind it. Anyway, I made it back to the mansion. I couldn't tell anyone, and I didn't want to. I stayed quiet until nightfall. It was so horrible of me. If I had hurried and told someone, they might have brought her a first aid kit, and she might have been saved. No. No. You couldn't have just, put a fucking Flintstones... You couldn't have just, given her a Hello Kitty Band-Aid and a Flintstones vitamin and called it a day. That's... I'm pretty sure even if fully equipped paramedics and doctors were right next to you at the time of the accident, I don't think anything was possible. How is a first aid kit going to help with a crushed cranium? You didn't kill her. Don't worry about that anymore. Lipsies. Then, what did you do next? That night, I turned over in my bed so many times I couldn't sleep. Late that night, I quietly called Genji-san on the phone and told him. What did he say? He told me to let him handle everything, and to speak of this to no one. I spent the next several days terrified that Father would call for me and scold me brutally, but he didn't. Genji-san kept on doing his job quietly, just like normal. Father stayed locked up in his study, not knowing any of it. At the very least, none of us ever heard about it. Genji-san probably managed to clean everything up nicely. After all, they couldn't let knowledge of that child go public. Even if she was an illegitimate child, she was still his daughter by blood. It must have been tough for Father not being able to hold a real funeral for her. I suppose that's why we're having this funeral. And then, that's all I know. And that's all I know too. I'm not hiding anything else. I've told you everything, I swear it. Will scratched his head, letting his gaze wander. It had taken Rosa a lot of determination to make this confession, but it was nothing particularly special for Will. It had apparently been little more than a review of information he already knew. Thanks, Aunt Rosa. Is that enough for you, Will? Are you satisfied? That's enough. It was a nice review. To Will, Rosa's memories only gave information that was already known. This was the first time he'd heard all that about her running back to the mansion after Beatrice fell to her death, but none of it was particularly surprising. Apparently, Rosa didn't know any more than this. If he wanted to learn more than what was in the fragments Bernkastel gave him, he would need to find new testimony. Leon, tell Akenzo that I want to talk to him. It looks like we won't get anywhere without asking the man himself. Where are you going? Off to cool my head and organize my thoughts. Don't follow. Well then, pardon me. Please take your time. After giving an elegant bow, Lion made a face, tongue sticking out, and unless Will had eyes on the back of his head, he couldn't have seen this last bit. Will returned to the chapel by himself. The cold air and the monotonous sound of the rain were comforting. So, how's the game going? And he had come here for a little peace and quiet. As soon as he let out a sigh of relief, that voice rang out. That's my line. It was as though she had been sitting there all along. Bernkastel appeared on top of the altar once more. Beatrice's altar must have been extremely comfortable. Battler annoyed me over and over with his incompetence. You're quite competent compared to him, so it's much more relaxing to watch you work. Unlike Ushiromiya Battler's games, I have nothing standing in my way. It's easy. That sort of game is already ended. Tales can be enjoyed twice. First you love them, then you tear out their guts. Tish, so I'm butcher now. So, Do you think you figured out who killed Beatrice? Rose's confession is something I already know from a previous fragment. There was no brand new information. We're still at square one. Unless Ushiromya Kinzo tells us what really happened, we won't get any further than this. So don't tell me that arguing with Kinzo and persuading him to spill the beans is supposed to be part of this game. That'd be fatally boring. Kinzo refuses to speak of the truth and is himself the king protected by his castle. But it wouldn't be any fun to have that stand in the way of your game. I won't torture. It's not my style. I know, as the game master, I will grant you power, so that you can get the truth from Kinzo, of course. Still wearing shoes, Berncastel stepped into the casket, picked up one of the flowers that had been set as offerings, and blew hard as though scattering fluff from a dandelion. Then a single petal broke off and drifted down towards Will. No longer gold, but with the shine of a transparent crystal. The detective's authority? Humph. What? That pathetic ability. No. This is an invitation to the grandstands. Theater-going authority. That's supposed to be forbidden without authorization from the Senate. I'm the one giving it on my game board. Who's going to stop me? Humph. Although the crystal flower petal danced in the wind, it wouldn't fly away until the Will accepted it. He remembered how useless it was to argue with witches and snatched it up. When he did, the petal flashed brightly for an instant, melted into Will's palm, and disappeared. Entertain me if you can, and try to enjoy yourself. You must also be interested in seeing what the guts of Beatrice's game board look like, right? Not really. After Will's rude answer, Berncastel vanished into thin air, leaving behind an obnoxious laugh. Tish. After clicking his tongue, Will turned round unhappily. When he did, it felt as though his gaze had crossed that of a shadow standing right in front of him, near the door that led outside. Who is it? Pardon me. Papa. I heard a voice, so I wondered who it was. Ah, Shannon. So you're running the reception desk this time. Yes. I have been taking it in turns with Cannon-kun to run the reception desk. And Cannon? A short while ago, he was ordered by, Leon-sama to take a break. So he's resting now. So you don't know Leon either? Huh? No, that's not... Ushiromiya Leon is the successor, the one who wears the silver ring. Why are you stumbling over that name when you've worked here for 10 years? That's... Don't worry. I don't recognize Leon either. You gotta say either or either. Kraus is supposed to be the successor. Jessica is supposed to be his only child. There hasn't been a single fragment with anyone named Leon in the Ushiromia family. When she realized that Will didn't recognize Leon either, Shannon relaxed. Apparently, she was a bit relieved to find that she wasn't going crazy by herself. However, her expression grew quickly uncertain once more. Where is this place? I think it's the Ushiromia family chapel. However, something feels different about it. Also, I never knew that someone named Lion Sama existed, and yet Madame, Kraus-sama, the master, Milady, and all the relatives all talk as though it's perfectly natural. I don't understand what's happening. Leon is a piece placed by Bern Castell. She also said that in order to place that piece, she switched over to a larger cat box. On top of that, it seems this world isn't a proper world, but one made out of several different fragments sewn together. Sewn back together wrong. Sewn back together wrong. Sewn back together. I don't think anyone else has ever watched Metalocalypse. It was just me and Def Clock, I guess. It's as though this is a special stage set up specifically for this game. I'm sure she's nodding at my thoughts right now, laughing and chomping down popcorn. How long have you worked in here in this world? 10 years? I see. So it really is a special stage. After all, right when I entered the channel, I spawned a Kinzo. Since Shannon had been working here for about 10 years, takes place in 1986, the stage of Beato's game. In that case, Kinzo shouldn't exist. However, he definitely was here a few minutes ago. Bern Castell promised that all of the information needed for reasoning was gathered here. She must have really packed it together to fit everything in. I see, so it really is a special stage. Why is Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 there? You've served the Ushiromia family for many years, so just how much do you know about Beatrice? I know the master loved her deeply, but other than that, is that all? And, they say that she's the master of Rockenjima's knight. That's right. The name of the ghost rumored to wander the mansion night after night is also Beatrice. That brings the number of Beatrices to 3. The first Beatrice. The first is the Beatrice from more than 30 years ago who is said to have given Kinzo the gold. The second is the Beatrice from 20 years ago who met Rosa. The third is the Beatrice of the ghost stories, who is rumored to be the master of the night in Rockenjima. Furudo Erika's reasoning was probably correct. It started out as a legend of evil spirits in Rockenjima. Later on, elements such as Kinzo's occult hobbies, the name, and portraits of the mysterious woman Beatrice, the epitaph, got mixed in, and it was all integrated into the legend of the Golden Witch. Then the darkness of the night gained the personality of the witch. That's the third Beatrice. This became the veil for the serial murders.